it's me, South Jersey Sam. Merry fucking Christmas and all that. Sorry if I'm acting like a Scrooge, but it's rather fitting with what I'm reviewing. But first, let's talk about a story we all know about. A Christmas Carol. Published in 1843 by author Charles Dickens, the story tells of an old curmudgeon named Ebenezer Scrooge who has a deep hatred for Christmas. One evening, he is visited by the ghost of his old business partner who warns him of 3 Christmas spirits who intend to show him the past, present, and future of his actions. The story, while having a dark tone, still comes off as a classic story to read during the Christmas season, which would lead to a vast amount of movie and TV special adaptations for decades. It began in 1901 in the UK with a short silent film, but would later give way to a full-length feature film in 1935. And as time passed, numerous other films and specials would make different versions of the story, even modern interpretations like Scrooged. Well, too bad I'm going with a shitty computer animated short from 2006. Bah fucking humbug. There's really not much to say about this special, other than it's an all-animal cast rendition of the story with a couple of tweaks to it. As long as it's not like El Arca, I don't care what they did with it. The company that produced the short was BKN, who had produced a couple of vague cartoon projects like Ultimate Book of Spells, Legend of the Dragon, and Kong, King of Atlantis. What? They have also worked on other adaptations based on stories like Robin Hood, Prince and the Pauper, and Alice in Wonderland. The strange thing about their adaptations is that most of them involve anthropomorphic animals, except there are a few humans in their Wonderland short. I have no idea why their videos are like this, but I can assume they're trying to be unique with their adaptations. But as far as this adaptation of Christmas Carol goes, it looks very underwhelming. I mean, just look at the DVD itself. What in the hell kind of display is this? Some sort of gel pack with snow globe confetti to make it look like snow. The damn cover is so pale it makes the vampires from the Twilight Saga look livelier. Hell, it makes Paige and Seamus look fully tanned. But I shouldn't delay the inevitable. Let's see how unique their adaptation is. This is A Christmas Carol, or as it's known in its alternate title, A Christmas Carol, Scrooge's Ghostly Tale. Yeah, I've heard better titles from B-movie horror films. So the film begins with a narration about Christmas, with the townsfolk getting ready and enjoying the festive season. Then we're introduced to Tiny Tim, who despite the bad leg is still in the festive season. And here's one of my problems with the special. It's not a huge problem, but it's still something to bring up. Tiny Tim should not have been shown this early. The character isn't exactly the main focus of the story, but more of a side character to add emphasis on Bob Cratchit's troubled home life. Cratchit is shown as the main conflict of Scrooge's harsh actions, since he works hard to support his large family and ailing son. Tiny Tim is shown as the sign of hope for both the family and for Scrooge to change his ways to help him. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We're then introduced to Scrooge and Cratchit, and if you've seen them all, you'll know how they are, with Scrooge being a grump and Cratchit being the good-natured man who does what he can despite the labor he's put through. And what sort of problem does Scrooge have with Cratchit?
Where has the missing farthing gone?
This is so underwhelming it makes any kindergartner style of entertainment more engaging. Like the Callaloo Show or Teen Titans Go. Anyway, Scrooge is then visited by his nephew, Fred, who of course invites him to his Christmas party and to meet his wife, but of course he declines begrudgingly. During this, Cratchit asks for at least a day off for Christmas, and Scrooge gives him a pass after Fred's insistence, but tells him to come in the day after Christmas. Yeah, aside from the poor character models and mediocre animation, nothing's different so far. Just the same crap you get out of every other adaptation. However, it changes slightly when Scrooge comes across the 2 gentlemen who are asking for donations to help the children.
We wish a word about the orphanage. We find ourselves just £5 short of the funds necessary to...
Orphanage? You keep me here to catch a chill just to speak of the orphanage?
Well, we knew you wouldn't want any children going hungry.
Ow! 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 Ow!
Oh, ow, ow, oh, oh.
Yeah, might as well bring up the obvious difference from the other adaptations. You see, in most adaptations, the scene would occur within Scrooge's building as the men involved with the donation would be told that donating was a worthless cause. The donors would tell him that the poor could die without any more funds, but Scrooge basically tells them that the sooner they die, the better. Okay, not exactly those words, but pretty close. Even in Mickey's Christmas Carol, Scrooge chooses to verbally swindle them by saying that asking money for the poor would have its consequences, really showing how much of a greedy miser he is. Here, Scrooge basically hits one of them and tells them to fuck off with their charity. A bit but certainly shows how much of an asshole he is. It really doesn't add anything interesting to the story other than this cheesy line.
What is it that can make a man so cold and hard?
And his cane so sharp. Ooh.
Anyway, during the evening, Scrooge is sitting by the fireplace having some soup when, of course, he hears a ghostly voice of his former partner, Jacob Cricket? Why is it a cricket? Why would he be a cricket? Seriously, out of all the animals in the world, why a fucking cricket? It's not even a life-size cricket. It's the size of a human, but with the same anatomy of a cricket. What the fuck sense does that make? Anyway, Marley comes in to warn Scrooge about his fate and says to expect 3 spirits to appear at 1 a.m. Oh, and by the way, he warns about the spirits after he flies back into the fireplace.
Heed them well, Ebenezer Scrooge. The first shall visit when the clock strikes 1.
I suppose I could have warned you before flying back in, but I guess the animators were too cheap to have that happen. Animation costs money, Scrooge. Animation costs money.
So as 1 a.m. approaches, it seems that nothing has happened until his pillow starts talking.
It seems I've scared him off. Oh, it's just pillow talk.
Boo! So yeah, this is the ghost of Christmas Past, portrayed as a stork with a heavy Scottish accent. And to the film's credit, it's not a bad interpretation of the spirit, especially how she is able to fly around with Scrooge when they go into his past. Speaking of which, we see the two visit Scrooge's childhood, where he and his sister Fan are hoping for a good Christmas after sharing an exposition of their mother's passing, next to the ugliest snowman I've seen in a cartoon. But things get worse when their father comes in and gives little Scrooge some bad news.
I just wanted to say goodbye.
Where are you going, Papa?
Not me, Ebenezer. You. I'm sending you to boarding school. It's for the best. You leave first thing tomorrow morning.
But, Papa, tomorrow is Christmas Day.
Exactly. Plenty of seats left on the train.
Well, let's look back at the story again. In the story, we see Scrooge's past from his time in the boarding school, miserable and lonely during the Christmas season. It wouldn't be until his sister Fan comes in and tells him that he can come home, as their father isn't as bitter as he was before. There was a minor indication of Scrooge's past within this scene, and in a way makes us think that his father might have been visited by the Christmas spirits as well. Now, certain adaptations may have changed things around with Scrooge's past and his relationship with his father. In fact, the one adaptation that shows the strained relationship of Scrooge and his father is shown very well in the 1984 adaptation, where we get more of a backstory on Scrooge's past, as it is told that Scrooge's mother died giving birth to Scrooge, and his father has held it against him. And when he is about to bring him home, his father would arrange him to be an apprentice to Fezziwig in 3 days. Here, what is there for Scrooge's father to be bitter about? Why would he be so quick to send his own son out to boarding school? Well, all that and plenty more will be shoved into the no explanation files inside the we don't care folders. Anyway, we then see a second moment of Scrooge's past as a young man in boarding school still. He is then visited by his sister Fan, who tells him she's getting married and hopes when she's settled in, he could live with them. But in the next flashback, we see Fan has a baby with her, young Fred. She gives Scrooge the bad news that there isn't enough room in their home for young Ebenezer, which leads to what I have to admit is a nice change to the story.
Fine with me. I don't need you or anyone.
Ebby, wait! Please!
Merry Christmas to you, too!
Living through this once was enough for me, thank you very much.
This time, stick around, so you finally see what happened next. Oh, little Freddy. I had so wanted your Uncle Ebenezer to love you. The way I have always loved my dear, dear brother. If he only knew how much I have missed him.
I never did.
While it's not a perfect change to the story, it is an interesting change of pace as we see a good reason why he feels so bitter after all these years. But then again, there have been better adaptations than this, and we're not even done the other segments. Soon after, the clock strikes 2 and the next spirit is shown, revealing...
I am the ghost of Christmas present. That's as in now, not Christmas presents. Folks often get confused. Think I'm bringing them gifts like Santa.
What the fuck?
Actually, I do bring a gift of sorts, but not the kind you wrap with a pretty bow. You know what I'm saying?
Why the hell are you a kangaroo spirit? What sort of purpose does a kangaroo have to be a Christmas spirit? Just because you're from Australia? That's a piss-poor excuse. Anyway, the spirit takes Scrooge to the Cratchit household, where the family has some homemade eggnog and decide to make a toast. Tiny Tim suggests making a toast to Scrooge, which of course surprises everyone since Scrooge has treated Cratchit like crap over the years. But Tiny Tim brings up a good point to toast Scrooge.
'Cause I'm afraid maybe no one else will. And everyone deserves a little cheer at Christmas.
Oh, you are a kind soul, Tiny Tim.
To Ebenezer Scrooge, may the spirit of Christmas be with him.
To Ebenezer Scrooge!
Soon after, we see the home of Scrooge's nephew, Fred, and his wife having fun at their Christmas party. Not sure how you have fun when the song you sing sounds like crap.
Hey, 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 holiday, time to sing and time to play. Christmas time for everyone, let us sing in unison. Stomp, stomp, stomp in the snow, kissing under mistletoe. Shout, 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 hear our call, Happy Christmas to you all.
Yeah, I'd rather listen to Angry Grandpa's story of Santa Claus than that.
And what did my wandering eyes did appear? A fat motherfucker! And a stinking reindeer! He came down the chimney like a bat out of hell! I knew all at once that motherfucker fell!
Anyway, they raise their drinks to toast Fred and his wife on their first Christmas together as a married couple, but Fred also wants to toast to his Uncle Scrooge. Certainly a big coincidence with people making a toast to Scrooge, isn't it? What are the odds of two groups of people making a toast to the same miser? With odds like that, they're pretty slim in the long run. So we see Scrooge transported into the town square for some reason, and is met by the ghost of Bletch from Meet the Feebles.
Oh, shit.
So yeah, another bizarre role for a ghost, but to be fair, it is an Arctic animal, so it sort of makes sense. Anyway, the Ghost of Christmas Future transports Scrooge into the future of the town square, even though we were just there before they transported again. So, what the fuck, Bletch? Meanwhile, things seem to be the same in the town square until...
Enough already! Why can't they stop that confounded racket? I hate Christmas carols!
Now, you don't really mean that, Tiny Tim.
Oh, wow! You fucking did it! You done goofed! I mean, Jesus Christ, where did this idea come from? Why would this be presented to us? Who thought that a bitter Tiny Tim would have been the best way to show Scrooge the future that would occur? Again, looking back at the story, the future shows that the Cratchit family is somber after we find that Tiny Tim has passed away, with Bob taking it very seriously. Even in the two adaptations from Disney, from the Mickey Mouse short to the Jim Carrey film, they still went with the idea and had shown how much this affects Cratchit, with Scrooge witnessing their emotional pain. This is the one thing that shows how much his actions have caused on his family, with his sour attitude and cruel work ethics. Here, we get the idea that Tiny Tim was disproven of Scrooge's actions and starts to act like him, but what sort of impact does that fall on his family? His father, his mother, his siblings? Guess what? That's all shoved into the no explanation files. And let me tell you, at the rate this movie's going, that folder is about to combust. So what about Scrooge's fate? What was his ultimate demise? Just watch.
Can you imagine hoarding so much gold and piling it so high that one day it just comes crashing down on top of you? Poor old miser was buried under a mountain of his own coins.
I'm sorry, the last time I checked, I was watching a movie about A Christmas Carol, not DuckTales. Well, one more time. In the book and other adaptations, there is a hint that Scrooge died, but there is no indication of what caused his death. What we do know is that Scrooge would be forgotten and his valuables would be taken and sold. The impact of his death was the real crux of Scrooge's future because it gave the idea that no one cared for him after he died. What are we supposed to feel here? It shouldn't just be a message about greed, it should be a message about how you treat others and how others treat you in the end. But what would I know? I'm just some schmuck from South Jersey going over a shitty Christmas special based on a classic Christmas story that's 172 years old. The fucking humbug. So eventually, the spirit shows Scrooge his grave and even his fate as we see Marley and Scrooge chained together. That seems rather suggestive. Ugh, I don't want to think about it.
Ebenezer Scrooge, you have met the ghosts of Christmas past, present, and future. You have seen what has been, what is, and what most likely will be.
Hey, Ghost, what happened to the fact that others wouldn't be able to see you? Were you and the others just bullshitting about that? So, as expected, Scrooge dreads this future and wakes up on Christmas Day. He sees a young boy outside and asks him to have the butcher wait for him before leaving the butcher shop, even giving him some money for his help. And with his new outlook on life, he decides to sing a song.
Me and my a second chance makes me want to sing and dance, to laugh and cry and jump so high I feel just like a butterfly.
Yeah, I'll take Angry Grandpa's story again.
He filled our stockings with pretzels and beer and a rubber penis for the family queer. And I heard him exclaim as he rode out of sight, "Fuck you all!" It's been a hell of a night.
So after that crap song, Scrooge meets up with the butcher to make sure that the roast is sent to Cratchit's home and to keep it anonymous. As he leaves, he comes across the donation group again and gives them £50 for the orphans, even telling them that he'll have more to give after Christmas. And just to be more generous, he gives his cane to the man he injured earlier. I guess as an apology? Meanwhile, Bob Cratchit receives the roast and wonders who would have sent it to him. Of course, Tiny Tim believes it was Scrooge, but the rest of the family finds it hard to believe.
I don't know why, but I'm as sure about this as I am that Mother's pudding is always the sweetest.
You know, I like how Tiny Tim had a small amount of dialogue in the other adaptations, because he was able to get to the point and would still leave an impact on the people around him, even Scrooge. This Tiny Tim just sounds like a little kiss-ass. Meanwhile, Scrooge visits Fred and hopes to spend some time with him and his wife as a family. Fred, caught off guard from this, brings him into his home and they all enjoy Christmas together. The next day, Cratchit hurries to work but is called into Scrooge's office. He thinks he's about to be fired, but of course Scrooge gives him a raise, a thank you that's long overdue, and the rest of the day off to spend time with his family. As Scrooge begins to relish in his new outlook, we see Marley's ghost standing by him and thanks him for setting his spirit free. I don't think that's how things work in the afterlife, but we're almost done and I don't care at this point. Later on, we see that Scrooge has done more for the community by giving money to help build a new orphanage, a new room for the hospital, and even renaming his business Scrooge and Cratchit. We also see Tiny Tim able to walk without the crutch and has gained an uncle with Scrooge. Disney did it better when it comes to Uncle Scrooge. And everyone lived happily ever after. At the bottom of my trash can. This movie is as appealing as a lump of coal and as tasteless as fruitcake. In other words, bah humbug. It may not be the worst adaptation of Dickens' story, but it's certainly one of the weakest adaptations ever made. The animation is lanky, the changes to the story barely leave an impact, the voice work is a mix between decent to tacky, then the songs, though few there are, thankfully, are just lazy and weak. This is hardly worth watching, let alone worth a purchase. It's basically the equivalent to a straight-to-video special, but even straight-to-video projects from the 90s had more effort in comparison to this junk. But you know what? It doesn't really matter. This special will just fade away into obscurity. It hardly has much to go for as far as Christmas specials go. Hell, I can barely find any sort of fan base out of this, so I can safely say that this artificial adaptation will hardly be remembered or embraced by anyone. Just don't be surprised if you see this in your local flea market or in the dollar DVD section in a supermarket. As for me, I'm going to enjoy my holiday season by watching the one movie that is perfect for this festive time of year. Star Wars Episode 7. Happy holidays, and may the Force be with you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, as well as Channel Frederator and Cartoon Hangover. Also, visit me and Channel Frederator on Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr. Just click on the annotations. And for more of my videos, visit me on Mr. Coat and Friends, which is thatfellowinthecoat.com. Booyah!